High in the mountains of Costa Rica lies a world shrouded in perpetual mist. With the first light, the mist begins to part, as if revealing a secret just for a moment.
And in this world of constant moisture, life builds its own fragile art.
The forest floor is a world all its own, a place of damp earth.
They could walk the earth, but they could not conquer it. For the next generation, life always began back in the old world. From the survivors, a new form emerged, tougher, more resilient, built not for the swamp, actually. As the continents themselves drifted and collided, these hardy survivors spread, riding the slow wave of
balance. Here, in the rich, tropical.
Their continued survival was a story of specialization, each finding its own small place. Long after the dinosaurs, the Earth itself began to move. Tectonic plates collided, pushing the
This was a place where life grew on life. Trees became
dense, drawn by the lure of constant moisture, or driven from the lowlands. A small group of common toads began this. The rules here were different. The ground was not soil, but a sponge of moss and roots. 1,000 years passed, then 10,000. For countless generations, their entire world was this mist-soaked sanctuary. Slowly, imperceptibly, the forest itself was rewriting their future. Not in the soil, but in their very genes. And then, in a single egg, in a single generation, a spark, a random from that spark, a living jewel was born. A creature of impossible color, in a world of green and brown. But the eyes of a predator were not the only ones watching. In the complex dance of selection, the female holds the final choice. Ice. And with her choice, a lineage was secured. Generation by generation, nature has a language of color, and bright often means beware. It is a warning. Like many in their family, the golden toads carried a defense in their skin, a mild toxin, just unpleasant enough to make a predator regret its meal. And when they gathered, the effect was multiplied. The warning of one became the fortress of many. To the casual eye, they are the same, but biology tells a different story. The golden toad belonged to a lineage.
Many of its colorful cousins lived their lives on display. But the golden toad was a creature of secrets, spending almost.
Other species claimed jungles, valleys, even nations. The golden toad's entire universe was a single mountaintop. While others relied on permanent water, the golden toad placed its trust in the brief, fleeting pools of the rainy season. A toad, yes, but a toad like no other. A unique combination of traits that may never be seen again. In the great tree of life, some branches are thick and strong, others are fine and in the heart of Central America lies a nation that chose a different path, not of armies, and crowning this sanctuary, a mountain that wears a permanent veil of mist, Monteverde, the stage for our story. To step inside is to leave the ordinary world behind. It is to cross a threshold into a kingdom of twilight and mist. Here, water is not something that falls from the sky. It is the sky itself. It is the air. It has a scent of wet earth, of blooming flowers, and of ancient, slow decay. Every morning, the ocean sends its regards. A river of fog that flows up the mountain. When the mist arrives, the world shrinks to only a few feet. Every step is a discovery in a room with no walls. The plants themselves are masters of this world. Their leaves designed to comb the moisture from the passing fog. And when the sun finds a way through, the air itself catches fire, creating a cathedral of mist and light. As reliably as it arrives, it retreats, leaving behind a world washed clean. The heart of this world is the trees. Ancient sentinels, their branches are not just wood. Moss is the skin of the forest. A living blanket that holds the mist close, storing the water and providing a foothold for new life. And clinging to the branches, the jewels of the canopy. Orchids and bromeliads, plants that learn. Below, the forest floor is a quiet engine of creation, where death is not an end, but the beginning of new life. The tree, the moss, the flower, the soil, each part separate, yet all woven together in a perfect, living tapestry. Hidden beneath the canopy are the forest's veins, streams of cold, clear water, born from the endless drip of the clouds. And even in these cold, fast waters, there is life, perfectly suited to the restless energy of the current. But the mist is not the only water. There are times when the sky opens, and in the wake of the storm, a gift. Temporary pools of life. Small, but this gift is temporary. Every day, the pools shrink. For any life within them, it is a race against the sun. Listen closely. The forest is never silent. It is filled with the hum of a...
To survive here, you must be a master of disguise. Every leaf.
They are not just the hunted. They are the caretakers, the tiny messengers that carry the spark of life from one flower to the next. And when life ends, their work truly begins. They are the recyclers, the quiet army that turns death back into soil, an endless buffet, a constant source of energy. For the larger animals of the forest, this is the fuel that runs the engine of life. Where there is such abundance, there are hunters. The forest canopy is ruled by jewels of the air, like the resplendent quetzal. But beauty here is often paired with danger. Patience is a weapon. And in the trees, the hunters wait. And on the forest floor, ghosts move in the twilight. Shy mammals that spend their lives in the shadows. The bird, the snake, the monkey, the cat, all are neighbors in this vertical city, their lives woven together in a complex web of survival.
And some residents need not be seen to be known. Their calls are the voice of the forest itself, a wild and echoing song.
For an amphibian, skin is everything. It is a lung, it is a source of water, but it is also a cumulus. This is why the cloud forest is their paradise. It is a world without thirst, a place where the air...
Yes. And so, they flourish here in every imaginable shape and color. A living rainbow of amphibians.
The complexity of the forest is a fortress. a million places to hide from the hunters in the sky and the snakes in the trees.
Constant moisture for the adults, endless hiding places, and with the rains, the perfect nursery.
But the golden toad was different. It did not live on the leaves, but under them, a creature of the damp soil. Its survival depended completely on the cloud's moisture seeping down from the moss above, keeping its hidden world from drying out. The heavy rains were the signal, an alarm clock of water, soaking the earth and calling the toads. The cloud and the toad were two parts of one system. One could not exist without the other. And here he is, the living jewel of Monteverde, forged in isolation, painted by evolution, the male golden toad. His color was flawless, a solid, uniform gold, as if he had been dipped in the setting sun. His eyes were simple beads of night, a stark and beautiful contrast to his radiant skin. But for all his majestic color, he was a tiny thing, a treasure that could be held in the palm of a hand. In the endless green of the forest, he was a spark of fire, a living beacon, impossible to miss. But the male was only half of the story. For every golden jewel, there was his counterpart, and she was nothing like him.
Her skin was a map of stars against a night sky, patches of scarlet and gold on a canvas of dark olive.
She was larger than the male, and stronger. Her body was built for the crucial task of carrying the future of their species. Her pattern was her protection. Where the male was a beacon, she was a shadow, perfectly camouflaged on the forest floor where she would lay her eggs. Fire and earth, beacon and shadow, two vastly different forms, born from the same DNA, creating a perfect whole. For a few short weeks, these temporary pools became the center of their universe, a frantic, compelling list. From a female's perspective, the choice began with a simple question: who could be seen? The male's color was an honest signal. Its brilliance was a direct reflection of the male's health and strength. A brighter gold meant better genes.
But this brilliant advertisement came at a terrible price. To be this visible to a mate meant being just as visible to the hunters in the sky.
It was a gamble played every year for thousands of generations. A gamble that, for a time, always paid off.
Away from the frenzy of the breeding pools, his true nature was revealed. He was a small, shy creature. From his perspective, the world was a land of giants, a fallen leaf, an impassable mini. His primary defense was stillness. At the slightest sign of danger, he would freeze. He was not a great hunter. He was a gentle forager, feeding on the tiniest of the forest's creatures. This was his life for most of the year, a quiet, simple, and secret existence on the floor of the misty forest. For the golden toad, the surface of the forest was just a temporary space. Its true home, the forest itself, provided the perfect cloak of invisibility, a constantly renewed blanket of fallen leaves. The ancient trees that formed the canopy also provided the foundations of its home. A maze of roots offered 1,000 tiny havens.
And when no natural shelter was available, it would create its own, using its powerful legs to disappear into the damp, forgiving earth.
To look upon the forest floor was to see almost nothing. And that was the secret to the golden toad's success. For most of the year, for as many as 11 months at a time, this was its entire existence. This fleeting appearance gave it the quality of a myth, a magical creature that would appear for a short time and then vanish as if it had never been. And then, for a few frantic weeks, absence would become an overwhelming presence. And as quickly as it began, it was over. The pools dried, and the toads melted back into the earth. It was a life lived not in years, but in moments. A brief, brilliant flame. To truly understand the golden toad's uniqueness, one must look at its neighbors, the other amphibians who shared its misty world. Essence. Even its color was different. Where others wore intricate patterns, the male golden toad was a statement of pure disappearance. Its neighbors were adaptable. But the golden toad was a perfectionist. It was the ultimate specialist. During the dry season, the forest held its breath. And deep in the soil, the golden toads. And then, the change. The sky would break, and the first rains of the season would arrive. This was the signal. The stillness was broken, replaced by a frantic urgency.
It was a tale of two lives, the silent sleeper of the dry season and the golden beacon of the rains.
And when the rain subsided, the wheel would turn. The frenzy would give way to silence. The frantic competition gives way to a quiet union. An ancient instinct, the mating, she lays not a random clutch, but delicate strings of future life, anchoring them carefully in the fleeting world of the rain pool.
Inside each tiny sphere, a universe of complexity begins to unfold. A transparent.
But this nursery offers little protection. It is a shallow, open stage, exposed to the eyes of predators and the heat of the sun.
Their part in the story is over. They leave their offspring to a contest of luck and resilience, a life left entirely to chance. After a few short days, a stirring. The blueprints have become bodies. A new stills. With a final push, it enters the world. A tiny, vulnerable creature, and it is not alone. Thousands hatch together, a swirling cloud of siblings. In their numbers, they find their only safety. They move as one, a single organism with 1,000 bodies. An instinctual dance of unity that helps to confuse and deter their enemies. This tiny pool is their entire world. A temporary cradle, filled with the promise of the future.
Their first task is to eat. With tiny, rasping mouths, they graze on the thin film of algae that coats every surface.
They are also the recyclers. Nothing is wasted. They feast on the decaying matter at the bottom of the pool, cleaning their world as they grow.
As they grow, so does their appetite. They begin to hunt, seeking out the tiny creatures that share their pool.
Every moment is spent feeding. A relentless quest for energy, all to fuel the incredible transformation that is to come.
And the results are rapid. In a matter of days, they double, then triple in size. Growth is their only defense against the ticking clock.
Then, the change begins. From the sides of its body, 2 tiny buds appear. Day by day, they take shape, developing knees, ankles, and feet. The engine for a new world of jumping and walking. The front legs appear all at once, breaking through the skin in a single, dramatic moment. The tadpole now has its first engine, the tail, is no longer needed. It is not shed, but consumed, its energy drawn back into slits. For a short time, it is a creature of 2 worlds, belonging to neither. No longer a tadpole, but not yet a toothless. And then, the moment of graduation. A final push, a leap of faith, and it leaves the water for good. The transformation is complete. It is a perfect miniature of its parents, equipped with all the tools it needs to survive, in a body no bigger than a fly. And it does not leave alone. An army of tiny toadlets, 1,000 strong, emerges from the dying.
Their first home is gone. But it served its purpose. The race against the sun has been won by this generation. But the end of one race is the beginning of another. On land, the world is even larger, and the dangers are everywhere. Their instinct is immediate and absolute. Hide. Their tiny size, once a vulnerability, is now their ult. And so their secret life begins. A year or more, spent in the damp darkness of the undergrowth. Of the thousands that left the pool, only a handful will survive their first year. It is a world of brutes, But for those who survive, a final transformation awaits. The dull colors of youth give way to the brilliant. After years of silent waiting, the rains come again. And with them, an ancient call awaits. From all corners of their tiny kingdom, they emerge. A silent pilgrimage, drawn by an... How they find their way remains a mystery. A map written in memory, in scent, in the very... But the journey is perilous. They are exposed, out in the open, and the forest's many hunters are watching.
They have arrived. The destination under long...
And then they all arrive. A golden tide that fills the small pools. The stage is small, and the actors are many. Every inch of space is contested in the frantic push to find a mate. And then, the reason for the frenzy arrives. The females, fewer in number, and holding the power of choice. Her arrival triggers a storm of instinct. A frantic contest where only the quickest, the strongest, or the luckiest male will succeed. This is the heart of their story. A few days of chaotic, brilliant, and powerful life, on which everything depends. The competition begins with a chase, a frantic pursuit through the crowded pool, where speed and stamina are the first test. Often, it becomes a battle of pure strength, a wrestling match where rivals will try to physically remove their competition. Sometimes, the competition becomes a deadly embrace, a mating ball where multiple males swarm a single female. But out of the chaos, there is a victor. One male who, through strength, speed, or luck, has flaunts. It is a victory that takes a tremendous toll. The competition is exhausting and perilous, a price that... But the competition was not only physical. It was a battle of sound, a chorus of hundreds of voices. Each male possessed a vocal sac, a resonating chamber that amplified his call, turning a small breath. It was a chorus of rivals, each male competing to be heard above the others, to produce the loudest, strongest, most attractive call. And the females were listening. The calls were a resume, a broadcast of fitness, a way for her to judge the quality of a male before she ever saw him. It was the defining sound of this place for a few weeks every year. Pillars. Once a male has secured a female, the embrace begins. A firm, instinctual hold called amphibians. He is aided by special adaptations. Roughened nuptial pads on his thumbs, which develop only for the breeders. And now, he waits. His frantic struggle is over. The female is now in control, seeking us. And when she is ready, the moment arrives. She releases her eggs, and at that exact instant, their purpose fulfilled, the bond is broken. They part ways, two solitary creatures once more, their brief alliance at an end. And with that parting, the story does not end. It begins again. A new generation. The egg becomes the toad, and the toad creates the egg. A perfect unsus. Each cycle was another link in an ancient chain, stretching all the way back to the first creature to leave the water. A chain that, after 375 million years, was about to face a challenge it could not overcome. Its great life's work of reproduction was over for the year. Now, the quiet, nightly, its weapon was speed, a tongue that moved faster than the eye could see, a sticky trap for any small creature that strayed too close. Its diet was a catalog of the forest floor's smallest inhabitants: beetles, mites, ants, flies. This was a silent, invisible hunt, happening thousands of times every night, in the shadows, and it was a quiet, thankless, but essential service. The endless, nightly work of maintaining a delicate balance. The cloud forest is a perfect incubator for insect life. Unchecked, their populations could explode, overwhelming the ecosystem.
But there are natural breaks in every healthy system. Predators, like the golden toad, apply a constant pressure.
It was not the work of one toad, but of thousands. A collective, nightly harvest that maintained. To understand their importance, one must imagine a world without them. A world choked by insects, where the balance has been broken. They were the silent gardeners of this world, constantly weeding the insect populations, ensuring the health and stability of the entire forest. Among the forest's insects are the plant eaters, armies of tiny herbivores that, if left unchecked, the toads were the forest's natural pesticide, a precise and tireless defense force, protecting the plant life from attack. This protection was most crucial for the youngest plants. By preying on pests near the ground, a single act of predation creates ripples. Protecting a plant helps the pollinators, which in turn,
An unsung hero of the undergrowth. A tiny predator whose existence made the entire garden healthier.
The brilliant color that attracted a mate also attracted attention from above. For the sharp-eyed birds of the canopy, they were an easy target.
and there were dangers in the shadows. Snakes, the masters of stealth, for whom the toad was a vital source of food. Even the forest's foragers were a threat. Opportunistic mammals who would not pass up a chance for a meal. It is a harsh but vital role, to die so that another may live. The golden toads go. Every ecosystem is a great web of energy, flowing from the sun to the plants, from the plants to the insects. Was it just one link among many? Or was it something more? A keystone on which because when you remove a keystone, the structure cannot stand. Its absence weakens the entire system, leading to collapse. The golden toad is gone, and now there is a hole in the heart of the web, a missing link.
For centuries, coal miners carried a canary with them into the depths. The bird...
Bloomless. Amphibians are nature's canaries. Their permeable skin, so perfectly adapted to a clean world, offers nuisance. For decades, the thriving population of golden toads was a sign, a living testament that their tiny world on the mountain, which is why their sudden decline was so terrifying. It was the first sign that something was wrong. Fleshness. It was the forest's early warning system. A message, written in gold and then in silence.
Look at them!
For a few weeks every year, the forest floor itself seemed to be ablaze. A river of gold.
They were a reliable wonder, a common sight for the lucky few who lived and worked on the mountain. A predictable miracle.
Researchers who studied them documented their incredible numbers. In a single breeding pool, over 1,500 toads could be counted.
This was the picture of a healthy species in a healthy habitat. A perfect system, seemingly untouched.
The heart of the spectacle was the color. An impossible, overwhelming display of orange and gold that seemed they formed a living carpet on the forest floor. A moving tide of life that was as much a part of the seasonal landscape as the rain itself. The crowds created moments of incredible beauty. A single dark female, the center of a flower with a dozen golden petals. This was the sight that stunned biologists and enchanted the world. A spectacle of life.
And then came the year everything changed. The year the music began to fade.
The following spring, scientists returned, expecting to see the same glorious spectacle. The miracle had always been reliable. But the miracle did not happen. The pools were silent. The golden tide had vanished.
I don't see anything.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Yes, and the mystery deepened. Reports began to come in from all over the world. Frogs and toads were vanishing everywhere.
The first clue was the water itself. The temporary pools, once reliable for weeks, were now vanishing much faster.
The question was no longer what was happening, but why. A desperate scientific race began to find the invisible.
Scientists now believe this shift was linked to a powerful El Niño event, a natural climate cycle that was growing more.
And the consequences were catastrophic. Eggs laid in the shallowing pools now desiccated and died before they could hatch.
The first clue was the water itself. The temporary pools, once reliable for weeks, were now vanishing much.
Was it just a natural cycle, or a symptom of a larger sickness? The golden toad was becoming one of the first.
The problem was not simply less water, but water that arrived differently. The gentle, consistent mist was.
These new, violent storms did not form the gentle pools of the past. Instead, they created distress, and in between the storms, a new kind of dryness. The life-giving moisture receded, putting the entire tomes. For the golden toad, whose entire life cycle was tuned to a precise and predictable pattern of moisture, the ancient, predictable rhythms of the cloud forest were unraveling. The stable sanctuary had become a place of dangerous extremes.
Scientists discovered a terrifying trend. As the atmosphere warmed, the cloud layer itself was rising, lifting. Even in their burrows, the adult toads were not safe. The drying soil put them under constant physiological stress. Even in their burrows, the adult toads were not safe. The drying soil put them under constant physiological stress, weakening them and making them vulnerable.
The entire forest was thirsty. From the highest orchid to the deepest root, the life-giving moisture.
The warmer temperatures cooked the sensitive eggs in the shallow water, while the pools themselves evaporated in days, not weeks.
An entire generation, gone. The chain of life, which had remained unbroken for millennia, was nearless. Even when a few eggs survived, the once great swarms of tadpoles were reduced to a few lonely schools.
The silence at the pools was the sound of a generation that was never born. The cycle was broken. But climate change was not the only killer. A second, more direct executioner had arrived.
Its name was Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, a deadly chytrid fungus, a pathogen killer. It spread across the globe like a plague, a silent pandemic that targeted amphibians with ruthless efficiency. And the toads in Monteverde were uniquely vulnerable. The stress from the changing climate had weakened their immune systems. And in the frantic crowds of the breeding season, it spread from toad to toad with horrifying efficiency. Their social nature had become a fatal flaw.
There was no escape. The fungus traveled with the water, seeping into the soil, into the deepest burrow. It moved through the population like a silent scythe. In a matter of weeks,
The aftermath was a scene of devastation. The golden tide had become a tide of death.
So how did it kill? The fungus attacked the most critical organ an amphibian has, its skin.
As the fungus grew, it caused the toad's own skin to turn against it, becoming thick, rough, and
this thickened skin could no longer absorb water or the vital electrolytes the toad needed to survive. Its internal systems began to fail.
worse, the toad could no longer breathe properly through its skin. It was, in effect, slowly suffocating. The loss of electrolytes ultimately leads to a catastrophic failure of the nervous system and the heart. The official cause of death, cardiac arrest.
The devastation was not limited to the adults. The fungus infected the tadpoles too, attacking them in their nursery.
The loss of electrolytes ultimately leads to a catastrophic failure of the nervous system and the heart. The official cause of death, cardiac arrest.
Unable to feed, the tadpoles would starve, their bodies too weak to begin the transformation into adulthood.
There was no new generation. The engine of renewal had completely seized. The population was aging.
It was a double blow to the next generation. Those who survived the drying pools were met with a deadly plague. There was no hope of recovery. A few adults did survive the initial plague, but they were the lonely inheritors of a dying world. The fungus had lasting, sublethal effects. The survivors were chronically ill, their bodies permanently damaged by the infection. The immense energy required for the migration and the mating frenzy was now beyond them. The survivors were too weak to breed.
They were now a population of ghosts, biologically alive but functionally extinct. The great crash was followed by a final, slow decline, as the few remaining survivors lived out their last, lonely years.
In 1988, researchers counted just 10 males. 10 lonely survivors.
They called, and they waited. But no females were seen that year. Their wait was in vain.
These were likely the last of their kind. The final generation to be born before the great sickness and the drying of the next year, a flicker of hope. A single male was spotted. The species was not yet gone. It was still holding on. The entire future of a species, the result of millions of years of evolution, now rested on the survival of a few.
May 15th, 1989.
A date that would become a quiet but significant milestone in the history of conservation. On that day, biologist Martha Crump recorded the last confirmed sighting of the species. A single, vibrant...
He was what is known as an endling. The last known survivor of his kind. The loneliest creature on Earth.
And then, he hopped away and disappeared back into the mist.
For years, scientists kept searching, hoping the species was just hiding. But the searches always ended in failure.
The rains still come. The pools still form. But the annual miracle no longer happens.
The forest floor is quieter now. A small but vital role in the ecosystem is now vacant. The living jewel now exists only as a memory, a ghost in a photograph, a sad story in a book.
This is the sound of extinction, not a roar, but a silence.
And in that silence, a terrible new understanding was born. A lesson written in loss.
For years, the scientific community held out hope. But hope is not data. A formal, painful
Finally, after 15 years without a single confirmed sighting, the official declaration was made. The golden toad was moved to the list of the extinct. Its life was now summarized in a few lines of text, a tombstone of data for a creature that once set the forest on fire. And so it became a ghost species, haunting the misty peaks of Monteverde. For over a century, science held a comforting belief that extinction was a slow, geological process.
Its story created a new, terrifying paradigm. That extinction in the modern age could be a sudden, catastrophic...
The shock gave way to an urgent question. How could this happen so fast? The search for an...
It was a brutal and tragic wake-up call. A clear signal that the rules of the game had changed, and the world...
And so, the toad began a second life. Not as a creature of flesh and blood, but as a powerful global symbol.
With its stunning color and tragic story, it became the poster child for the extinction crisis. A beautiful face for a terrible problem.
Its story became a fable, a cautionary tale told to children in the hopes that
This is the power of a symbol. To distill a complex crisis into a single, emotional story. Extinction. The golden toad was more than a symbol of extinction. It was a canary in the coal mine for the entire planet.
It proved that no sanctuary is truly safe. Park boundaries cannot stop a changing climate. And it taught us about the power of interacting threats. That climate change often doesn't kill directly. It weakens the...
It was a lesson written in loss, but it became a powerful call to action. A story used to this day to...
The golden toad was not an isolated tragedy. It was the tip of the iceberg. The most famous face.
Scientists now call this the sixth mass extinction. And amphibians, the great survivors,
They are the new golden toads, species on the very brink, fighting the same battle against a changing climate and a deadly fungus.
And their loss matters. They are the silent gardeners, the regulators, the vital link in the food chain.
These are the golden toad's kin.
Its story is their story. And whether they survive will be the true test of whether we have learned its lesson.
The golden toad is gone, but it is not forgotten. Its story is now permanently etched in the annals of science and history.
Even in death, it continues to teach us. Scientists study its preserved DNA, searching for clues about its use.
Its story has become a powerful voice in the halls of power. A clear, tragic example used by conscience.
And its home remains. The global attention brought by the golden toad helped solidify the protection of the
It is remembered. In the data, in the laws, and in the very soil of the mountain it once called home.
The shock of the golden toad's disappearance inspired a radical new idea. If they could not be saved in the wild, it became a race against time. Scientists rushing to collect the last survivors of other species, to build a lifeboat before the ship sank. And in these sanctuaries, a miracle. Species that were doomed in the wild are now breeding, creating a new generation. This is the ultimate hope, that one day, these rescued populations can be returned. This is the golden toad's living legacy, a tragedy that was transformed into action, a loss that... But every ecosystem is a delicate tower. You can remove one piece, and then the golden toad was one of those blocks. Its removal was a symptom of a deeply unstable system, a warning that the tower is falling.
And we must remember the most important lesson of all. We do not stand apart from the tower. We live inside it.
The golden toad's story is not just a warning, it is a choice. Between a future of continued collapse, it is a story of a terrible warning. Of how quickly that beauty can be erased by a world out of balance. But most of all, it is a story of hope. That a lesson learned from a great loss can inspire us to save what remains. Legends. And so, the golden toad completes its final journey. From a living creature to a scientific specimen.
For those who live on the mountain, it is still there. A golden spirit that lives on in the mist.
And that, my young friends, is the tale of the ancient forest spirit.
Legends. This is the only immortality a species can have after extinction. To live on, not in the flesh, but in the story.
And this legend has a purpose. To remind us of the beauty we have lost, and to inspire us to protect the beauty that remains.
The golden toad is gone. But the world is still filled with a million...
Their future depends on us, on the choices we make,
and the values we pass on to the next generation.
We can choose a different path, one where we are not the cause of collapse, but the agents of restoration,
so that no other species has to vanish into a legend.
It is a story of incredible beauty, of a jewel forged by time in a garden of mist.